Yeah. What's up, family? It's Willie D, y'all. Hey, check this out. If it's your first time checking out the show, let me know what city, what state you're coming in from. If you're outside of the U.S., let me know what country you're representing. Family, I need you to smash up the likes, smash up the likes, smash up the likes. Also, if you have not done so already, after you subscribe, there's a little bell next to you subscribe, but go ahead and click that thing right now so you can get your notifications each time I drop a new video like this. That way you be in the loop. Family, I'm going straight on in. I ain't got no time to waste because this is one of those type of topics that get people fired up, man, because there's a whole lot of people going through it. I have right now on the live with me, I got attorney Cassandra Daniels. She is a family law attorney and child support reform advocate. And I mean, when I say advocate, she on their heads right now, fam. And then, we have her client, Christopher Crump. Now, Christopher got a very unique, but also familiar story, if that makes sense. He's one of the men out here who is paying for a baby that is not his. The state have put the pressure on him. The state is saying, we don't care if the baby is not yours. You're going to pay for this baby. Like it or not, you're going to pay for this baby. And I ain't got to tell you that it has turned their decision to handle him like that has turned his life upside down. But he's right here. He can speak about this situation better than I can. Christopher, welcome to the show. Cassandra Daniels, attorney Cassandra Daniels, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's go right on in. Christopher, tell us how you found yourself in this situation, paying for a child that's not yours.
Well, I had back in the day, I had just, and actually, it was in the Swiss Village Apartments. I was friends with actually I don't know if he was your nephew, Emmett. We stayed in Swiss Village together.
Absolutely.
And me and Emmett, we was all over there. Yeah, we was in the apartments over there. And the lady actually lived in the apartments where we was at. And she was a family friend, actually, and she stayed with us for a little bit. I never had no kind of relations with her or nothing like that. And she left and moved. She ended up getting her housing approved, and they moved her to the south side. She moved to the south side, came back, and she told me that. Well, she didn't tell me. She told my mom that she was having a baby from me. When my mom brought it to my attention, I told my mom that she was basically lying. I told my mom that now I ain't never did nothing with her. And so when she was having the baby, she actually was gonna get a baby up for adoption. So that's how we got the baby at first. My mama was like, well, if this is his child, we're not giving nobody up. You could just give him to us. So like the first 5 years of the child's life, he was actually with us.
So your mom didn't believe you?
Nah, she didn't. She didn't. She really thought that that was my child. She actually thought
that the baby at least looked like you, have some type of resemblance.
Nah, he actually looked like his mom. He didn't actually look like me or nothing. But like I say, my mom was one of them good-hearted people that take anybody in. And she took her in. She looked at her as a daughter. So my mom, and she took the baby in too. Like I said, she had the baby from when he was 0 to 5. And so my mom just took him in and said it was mine. And basically that was it. We took a DNA test, the first DNA test. My mom took me down there when he was 5 years old. And we went down there and took a DNA test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what happened after that?
When we took the DNA test, that was in 2003. They told me if I hear from them in like 6 weeks that the baby was mine, but if I didn't hear from them, that he wasn't mine and I didn't have nothing to worry about. I didn't hear from them till 2007.
4 years later.
Yeah. and they
And
said that huh?
and they tell you what?
Well, they contacted the job that I was working for. I had just got my CDL license. I started driving for a trucking company in Pennsylvania, and they contacted them and told them to start withholding this amount of money from my check. So the job contacted me and told me about it, and I told them to give me a load back to Houston. When I got back to Houston, I went to the child support office, and they told me that they had established paternity. I said, well, I never received my DNA test. They told me if I wanted to know the DNA test results, I had to get a lawyer. But what I did was I was like, well, if they established paternity, then this kid really must be mine. So I started trying to figure out, like, when did we do all this? You know what I'm saying? When did it happen?
Wait a minute. So your mind is now playing tricks on you. You starting to think maybe you did have like maybe drunken sex with her or something like that?
That's what I was about to say, because back in the day, like, I'm not going to lie, I probably could say it on this podcast, but I wouldn't say it nowhere else. We was in the streets, you know what I'm saying? So we was, so it probably could have happened, and I just didn't remember. So that's how I was thinking. I was like, well, maybe it did happen. And so when they said they established paternity, I took it that they never said we established paternity through a default order. They just said we established paternity. So I'm thinking, okay, I took this DNA test. This kid must be mine. So I did what I was supposed to do. I came in, started paying the child support, started taking care of him, being around him all this time. And that was all the way up until he was 16.
And at what point do you find out that this is not your child?
Okay, so fast forward to when he turned 6. Well, through the years, I stopped paying the child support straight to child support, because when he would come with me every summer. For the summer, he would come with me, and he never would have nothing. So I said, okay, then I'm just gonna stop paying child support, and I'm gonna start buying all his stuff myself. So he turned 16. He was with me for the summer. He came to me. He was like, Dad, I want to live with you. By that, at that time, I ain't have no kids. I ain't have none at all. He was the only one, so he get everything. And so I say, well, we got to talk to your mama about that. So we call her. And when we call her, I tell her, I say, well, look, can't you say you want to come stay with me? I say, I think you should let him. He's 16 now. It's certain stuff I can teach him you can't teach him. She went on like, nah, he ain't coming out there. He ain't doing this. He ain't doing that. Then I was like, okay. So I get off the phone with him. I tell her, I say, your mama say he can't come. About a day later, she called back. She was like, you know what? I'm going to let him come stay. I'm going to meet you at the Chili's on 1960. And I'm going to give you all his paperwork. So I'm like, all right, cool. Pull up to the Chili's. When I pull up to the Chili's, police come from everywhere. Throw me all down on the ground. Pick me up, search me, everything. Then another plainclothes lawman walk up and hand me these papers. Said, right to the habeas corpus, which means bring the body. At the time, I didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. So basically, she was saying, like, I wouldn't return him. I'm like, well, I'm telling the police, man, he's 16 years old. I can't keep him here. He's 16. He can go back with us. So I'm telling them, like, take him with her now. They like, nah, you got to bring him to court. So they end up telling her to leave. They let me go. Me and him on the way back to the house. He crying. I'm telling him it's gonna be all right. Then he tell me, he like, man, I'm just tired. He's like, look, you're not my daddy. I say, man, look, I'm not finna be hearing this. I'm not going through all this here right now. He like, nah, for real, Dad. You're not my daddy. I met my daddy. So when he told me that, I end up taking him home. That Monday morning, I end up going down to the child support office. They wouldn't give me no kind of information. I went all the way down there like a week straight, that whole week, trying to find out what's going on. And then finally, when I went in there that Friday, a lady, which the lady still works for them, but I can't never say her name because I don't want her to lose her job. But she tell me when we walked in there, she said, come back at lunchtime. So when we come back at lunchtime, she tell me, they don't have your DNA test. Your DNA test is missing. I say, well, how did they put child support on me? She say, through a default order. So I said, I've been paying for a child all these years with a default order. So she say, yeah. She explained what a default order was. And so we end up going to court on the right to the habeas corpus thing that they served me for. And when we got in front of the judge, you know, I had a court-appointed attorney at the time, and the court-appointed attorney was telling me that I couldn't say nothing. So when I get in front of the judge, you know, they belittle you and they talk bad to you, and you like, you know, you ain't this person. So I just started, I was so bad, I started crying. So when I started crying, I thank God that I did. She asked me what was wrong, and then when she asked me, I told her, I say, you belittling me and telling me I'm not doing this and that for a child that's telling me that I'm not even his dad. And so when they told me that, that's when I ended up finding out. So the judge asked her, is this true? I'm thinking she gonna say, no, it ain't true, but she admitted to it was true.
Mm.
Okay. And so from there, they're still not giving you the relief that you need from paying child support. You're still on the hook.
Right.
Yeah.
At what point do you call your lawyer, who's right here on the stream with us, Cassandra Daniels?
Well, before I end up meeting Miss Cassandra, that when the judge tell us that, when we tell the judge that what was going on, the judge actually told us to go to recess, and she wanted to find the DNA test. So when we came back from recess and they couldn't find the DNA test, the judge said, well, I tell you what, we're going to take a new DNA test and we'll be back in 6 weeks. The day before we went back to court, the court-appointed attorney called me and he say, I know, he said, I got some good news and some bad news. He said, which one you want first? I say, I want the good news. I said, I want the bad news. He said, the bad news is, I know you really wanted this child to be yours. The good news is that he really not.
Hmm.
So we went to court.
If you really wanted the child to be yours.
I mean, because I'm not going to lie, I kind of did too, because I had already built that bond.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I had already built that bond. You know, this was my only kid. I didn't have no more kids, man. I was in my 30s. I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? This is, you know, this is my kid. You know what I'm saying? And it just got it. You kind of want it though. You be like, you know, yeah, but I ain't gonna lie, I did kind of want it to be.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Because I had been around him so long.
That he was in your wedding too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So Cassandra, at what point does Christopher call you? When do you get a hold of this case?
So picking up where he left off in his story, it comes out in court that the DNA results the results from the DNA test that he took back in 2003 were not in the file. So the court ordered a second DNA test. Results came back.
I need to pause for a moment. There's
Sure.
something going on with your mic.
My mic?
While you're talking, you hear that? There's some.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. Is it still doing it? Huh? Testing, mic check.
Yeah, it's still happening.
I don't know why.
Okay, well, let's just try to power through it.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. Maybe your volume up is too loud. Maybe your volume.
Yeah.
Let me turn it down. Mic check. It's still doing it?
It's a little bit.
I don't know how to fix it.
That's better, whatever you're doing.
Oh, is it not doing it anymore?
It is a little. That's better though. Let's try to get through it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So they ordered the secondary. Oh, I hear it now. The secondary DNA test that came back showing that he wasn't the father of the child. At that time, the court admonished or advised Mr. Crump that of the fact that there had been fraud, and advised him that he may want to go and seek what is called a bill of review. So at that time, of course, Mr. Crump is not an attorney. He doesn't know the legal system and the different suits to file. So he's assumed the mistake was on them, and it's just now been revealed. So therefore, they would correct the mistake that they made. But that's not how the law is currently set up. The onus was on Mr. Crump to then pick up the ball and basically save himself from the mistake that so many other people made. And so he finally contacted me. That happened in 2014. It wasn't in 2019 that Mr. Crump contacted me, because after he left court that day, he never heard anything from the Office of Attorney General. He never heard anything from anybody until 2019 when he received notice that they were about to start suspending his license and his ability to register his vehicles in an effort to collect for the back child support. Because at that time he was in back child support, and even still today, and over $40,000 in back child support. And so as it stands, the truth is out. Everybody knows what happened. Everybody knows that he's not the child's father, but he's still, according to the Texas laws, he's still under the obligation to pay back to mom and to the state over $40,000 in arrears.
So what are you doing to make sure that he doesn't have to pay that bill?
Right. So when he contacted me in 2019, the only thing that we had available to us was something called a bill of review, right? And there is a 4-year statute of limitation on being able to file a bill of review if there is fraud, right? But the clock starts running at the time that you become or should become aware of the fraud. So Mr. Crump became aware of the fraud that day in court in 2014. So we were late in filing our bill of review. And so because we were late, it didn't matter that the Office of Attorney General did not, pay attention to the initial results, that the initial DNA results were missing. It didn't matter that mom lied about him being dad. None of the stuff mattered because we were late in filing our bill of review. His case was dismissed, and there is no legal remedy for Mr. Crump right now. There is nothing that can help him be alleviated from the $40,000 of back child support that he's currently under.
Well, that's cold-blooded. Yeah. That's cold-blooded. Is that
even though the first DNA test, but that's not the first DNA test came up missing. Mm-hmm. There were 2 other guys tested. He's actually named after the second guy. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He's actually named after the second guy. But my DNA test just happened to come up missing. I don't think it came up missing. I think when they got to the third person, they were just like, you know what, we're not gonna put his, because at the time everything was not on the computer. It was all papers, and they was like, we're not gonna put his thing in the file. We just, because I'm study asking like, well, what happened to this first DNA test? Because we wouldn't be around none of this, or none of this wouldn't be going on if we had that DNA test. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what happened to that DNA test?
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. And it's not far-fetched. I would hate to think that there was some sort of intent on the behalf of the Child Support Division of the Office of Attorney General. But, it is a fact that when a parent or a child is receiving state assistance, the state seeks to establish paternity and child support orders so that they can receive a reimbursement for the cost to the state for funding those programs. So it's not far-fetched. It's not unreasonable to believe that maybe there was some intent there to put someone on the hook. Who knows?
No, I know. I'm going by history, man. I'm just like they do it. That's why they pull our records. Anytime you get in trouble with the police or whatever, they pull your record and they try to establish a pattern, a behavior pattern. And right. I have established a behavior pattern for the government based on starting with slavery. Okay, anything for a buck. They'll do anything for a buck.
Yeah.
If they took people, dragged people from their homeland and murdered people and lynched people and robbed them of their names and their culture and their heritage, and they sold mothers and fathers and children, man, these people would do anything. They locking people up right now, putting people in jail for nothing. Where they put them in jail for profit. They want to put people in jail so they can work for free. That's why they're not giving people, teaching kids trades in school. They come out better teaching them a trade in prison. So instead of them having a trade in school, learning a trade and going out into the world where they can use their trade and make, thousands and thousands of dollars a month, they would rather put you in prison and make you and teach you a trade in prison where you can make 57 cents a day. You see? So I'm going by their record, and I am not giving them the benefit of the doubt. I will say more than likely they sabotaged those results. When they said paternity was established, did they tell you specifically you were the father, or did they just say paternity was established and you assumed that you were the father?
No, they actually told me I was the father. I never forget that it was a Hispanic lady when I went into the office when he first told me, and I went that Monday. Me and my wife went in there, and the Hispanic lady that was working in there said they have established paternity that you are the father, and blah 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 blah. She never not once said that it was established. I told Miss Daniels this. They never not once said they established paternity through a default order. It never was said. It never was said.
Now, what exactly is a default order, Cassandra?
I'm glad you asked that. That's a great question. So default order is something that's avoidable, but it happens every day. And it happens when a person fails to show up to court. Either you have been personally served, a process server has come and given you papers that say you've been sued or there's a lawsuit pending, or they sent you something in the mail saying, there's this lawsuit and that you need to appear. If you fail to file an answer 20 days after receiving that service, then you are open to being defaulted. That's what the law says. You have to file an answer or make an appearance 20 days, in general, 20 days after you've been served. So if you don't, you're open yourself for them to just go down to the courthouse and just ask the judge for whatever they want. Basically, they fight a one-sided battle because you're not there. Or it happens where you've been given notice. Either they sent you something in the mail saying there's a hearing date on such and such date, and you didn't get it, or you got it and you just didn't go. If you don't show up, they get a default. And they pretty much get whatever they asked the court for at that time. And that's what happened to Mr. Crump. And it happens every day because people don't show up to court.
But so, I would have showed up.
Christopher, why didn't you show up? Did you overlook?
That's the thing. They told that I never did receive anything. And I worked for a company called Ridgeways in Houston, Texas for 2.5 years and never received anything. They was never taking no money out of my check or none of that. So by the time I started driving trucks, that's when they said that's when all this happened. That's when everything happened. So what was the lapse between 2003 to 2007? What was the lapse? Why y'all didn't contact me between them times? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Why do y'all wait? Y'all told me if y'all knew exactly where I was 6 weeks after that DNA test was supposed to come back. Why didn't y'all notify me then? Y'all told me if I didn't hear from y'all in 6 weeks, I didn't have to worry about nothing. I'm only going off what y'all telling me.
Right. Yeah. So you're not any orders that possibly could have came your way because hey, you're in the clear as far as you know.
Yeah, I was in the clear. So when they did hit me with it, when I did hear about it, I'm like, give me a load back to Houston if I can go talk to these people because I don't know what they talking about. And when I went back, that's when I first heard that I was his father. That was the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the issues. That's one of the laws that I feel like highlight the flaws or the brokenness in the system. The very fact that you can be named or found to be father by default is an issue. There are other proceedings, such as enforcements, where if a person fails to show up to court, a default order cannot be rendered against them. Their presence is required. So if they extend that in certain cases, then the same measure should be extended in cases where you're establishing paternity. No one should ever be dad by default. It happens all the time. If someone's in jail, if someone's overseas, if someone has moved and they don't get the notice, they're dad by default. And if they don't find that out timely, that's an order or that's a judgment that they cannot undo, or at least they won't be able to do any subsequent orders for child support that's attached to that finding. But yeah, Miss Willie, I hate to think that what you're saying is correct, but it kind of, if you follow the pattern of behavior, um, it looks like that. And a lot of the stuff that we see on the state level, a lot of the stuff that we see highlighted in Mr. Crump's case it actually comes from the federal government, from acts from the federal government that are implemented on the state level, and then we see it in our day-to-day interactions in our lives.
Yeah.
Just like, let me say this here, just like with the what's the lady name that you have to talk to, Miss Daniels?
Miss Crump, at the Office of Attorney General.
Yeah.
We'll leave her name out of it, but I know.
Okay, we'll leave her name out of it. But the mom says, "I don't want this money. Take him off of it."
Yeah.
Why haven't y'all sit? The mom even signed. We got paperwork, everything. They still haven't took that money off. Like, they still trying. I'm getting letters every day. They sent me a letter the other day, like telling me that Miss Cassandra Daniels is no longer my attorney and all this here and all that there. And I'm like, but how y'all just don't say she's not my attorney? Like, this is the stuff that they doing.
Yeah, they don't.
It's just amazing.
See, that's what it is. Like, bullies can't stand somebody that stand up to them. So they trying to have an easy fight. Bullies look for people that they perceive to be weak. So they looking for the weak. And they see she's standing strong. See, she's not just an attorney, but she is a child support reform attorney. You see, that's a different type of level. When you're talking about going up against that system, that beast that get paid to circumvent justice.
Yeah.
They get paid to lock people up and ruin their life. I know so many dudes who've had their lives ruined and had to try to pick themselves up after child support got through running through them. It's a shame, man. It's really sad that they do people like that. It's like this whole thing is like it's being ran by the mob or something. It's cold. We're gonna bring in D-Mac right quick. Let's bring in D-Mac. Hold that thought for me, Cassandra. D-Mac.
Hey, what's going on, OG?
What's on your mind, King?
Hey, how y'all doing on the panel?
Hello.
I just wanted to give a statement because I was in the military, and in 2010 going into 2011, I was serving in Iraq, and I came home for R&R, and I received a paperwork to go to court for child support. Now, mind you, at this point, I didn't know of any child that I had that I owed child support on. So come to find out that back in 2005, I had a relationship with a young lady. It wasn't an exclusive relationship, but we was together nonetheless. So me and her had our dealings or whatever, and I didn't know anything about a child. And I left North Carolina in 05 and came to Texas. Joined the military. Soon as she found out that I was in the military, about to deploy and making a decent amount of money, all of a sudden, oh, this is your child.
Oh, wow.
So now I have a 6-year-old son that I need to build a rapport and build a relationship with. But the thing that happened was, I came home from this deployment and I'm going through my demobilization process. I'm trying to reintegrate back in society, get my mind together. And here I have this child support lady on my back and in my ear to get me to do a child support paperwork or whatever like that. And I felt like during that time, it wasn't a good time for me. I wasn't in a good mental place, and I didn't go to the court proceeding. And that's how I ended up with a $42,000 back pay.
Wow.
And I
Oh,
feel
good.
like you shouldn't take advantage of somebody like that, because I'd understand if I was trying to duck child support and I was trying to get over. But I'm a soldier coming back off a deployment, and the last thing I need to be thinking about right in that moment, and not saying that child support isn't important, but that wasn't the most important thing on my mind at that time.
Yeah.
And I feel like they took advantage of me in that moment and put me in this position.
So
Wow.
you agree that the baby was yours or is yours?
The baby is mine, which I have no problem with that. I take care of him, and we're building a relationship. I have a good relationship with my son now.
Yeah.
But my point is, they have me in this $40,000 hole because I didn't know that I had a child. And
Yeah.
instead of dealing with me and working with me on this, they just
Right,
put me in the
right.
hole so they
Yeah.
could get that money from me, because they know I have a check coming in every month.
Yeah, yeah,
You
and
know,
and according to Texas law, they can go back. The Texas law says that once paternity is established, they can go back 4 years, but for good cause, they can go back even further than 4 years. So that's how once paternity is established, you automatically end up in arrears. And arrears are a whole nother situation because it triggers all of these aggressive collection measures, suspending your license, all those things that trickle down again from the federal government. That's really, really, really sad, man. That's sad.
yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, I got a theory. Got a theory. Okay, it is my theory that they do this to make it harder for certain people, black people, to get ahead in life. Think about what I'm saying. If you got a $40,000 judgment, $50,000 judgment, and you're a man, you work in a regular job or whatever, and even if you ain't working a regular job, even if you got a job and you getting $30 an hour, $40,000 judgment, that ain't no easy thing to overcome. And you
At
can't
all.
you can't start building nothing until you get them that money, till you get right with them. You can't build nothing. I know dudes that say, man, you know what? I don't even want to work, man, because all my money going to child support. I'm working to give her money. I mean, to get this woman money. I'm just working for them, and I'm not getting anything. I know dudes who can't even take care of themselves, and they got full-time jobs and making decent money, but all of their money is being taken from them, and those people, they don't care. This is how they treat the veterans. So when y'all hear them talking about, it's about the flag, y'all
No.
disrespecting our veterans, they don't give a damn. That's proof right there. That man is a veteran. He out here fighting for this country, giving them the right to lock him up. giving
Yeah.
them the right, giving them the right to have the power that they have, and the comfortability and the freedom that they have to move around and to be able to have the positions that they have. And look how they treat him. They don't know
LG,
about veterans, man. They don't care nothing about no veterans.
it to me is just like being on probation, because they always have something to hold over your head whenever you're not doing what they want you to do. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Cassandra, what can let me let you go, D Mac. I appreciate you for joining.
All right, appreciate that, OG. And y'all have a blessed day.
You
You
too.
too.
Right. Cassandra, what, if any, type of ramifications can be like levied against the women who lie, who say this is your baby and they know they lying? What is there anything that can be done? Or like it's almost like some, I'm a huge supporter of victims of sexual abuse, but those ones out there that lie and make it harder for those women to be believed, and that lie and destroy men's lives, they got to be dealt with, man. Is there any recourse?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like what we're talking about is paternity fraud, and I feel that paternity fraud is so rampant because there are no real repercussions in place. It's documented now that the mother of this child in Mr. Crump's case lied, right? It's documented. But the only real recourse there is he can take her to small claims court. He can take her and file a civil suit against her for fraud.
See, this is no small claim, though. That's the problem I have with that. This is not a small claim.
I agree.
You try to destroy this man's life. Christopher, at what point did she come clean with you?
She didn't never come clean. She actually didn't never come clean to me. The day that we got the court to read the DNA test, the second one. Before we went in court, she came up to me and she was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna let them come stay with you." But mind you, I had already knew because the lawyer had called me, so I'm looking at her like.
She said she was gonna let him come stay with you.
She said she was gonna let him come stay with me, and so when she said that, I said, I just don't understand you, man. I say, I just read her. I ain't really read her rights, but I was like, me and my mama took you in when you ain't had nowhere to go. I say, and then you standing in my face talking about if he mine. I say, man, he not mine. I say, my lawyer already came and told me. So when my lawyer came and told me, when I told her my lawyer came and told me, she had this look on her face like, yeah, whatever, this and that and this and that. But when her lawyer showed up, he called her out of the court. And I was looking at her, and when he told her that I wasn't the father, she fell into his lap, crying. But I'm like, why you crying? You already knew this. There was no reason for you to cry.
Like Maury, like they do on Maury.
Like nothing. And I'm talking about, man, she just, all this here over a lie. It's just amazing to me. It's just amazing to me. She didn't really mess up my life because I feel like I still was able to get married. After I found out that kid wasn't mine, I ended up making, God knew how I really felt. I was hurt because after they found that, they just walked away and left me dealing with all this here, even the son. But see now, the way I ain't saying God worked it out, but the son is messed up in the head now. Like he going through a lot. Like he tried to he found out a lot of stuff. He found out that when he tried to go into the military, he found out that he had been getting a Social Security check all his life. And he ain't know nothing about it. He's 23 years old. He texts me and tell me everything now. Like me and him real cool now. At first, because I told him, I was like, man, when you found out I wasn't, we took this DNA test and you found out I wasn't your dad, I said, y'all just walked away from me, you know what I'm saying, and left. You ain't called me and was like, at the end of the day, man, I took care of you. I made sure you was straight. Like, I was still wondering what's up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't answer my calls or nothing. I ain't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, you graduated from school and you had your real daddy there, but your real dad didn't do nothing for you.
Didn't do nothing for him. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all didn't invite me or nothing. You know, how you think I'm supposed to feel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
that's crazy.
Another reason why I feel like paternity fraud is allowed to just run rampant is because there's an act, federal government from the federal government called the Child Support Performance and Incentive Act, and it actually gives incentive money. It pays incentive money to the states based on their level of performance. So the better they perform in these 5 areas, the more money they get. And those five areas are establishment of paternity, establishment of child support, collection of child support, collection of arrears, and the other one, I can't think of the other one. It may just be 4. But because
line. That's what they're good at that.
Because establishment
of prerequisite of getting a job.
Because establishing of paternity is one of those levels of performance where there's a dollar amount associated with it. There's an incentive for them to want to establish. So it doesn't matter who it is. You got a name on the list. and we can establish paternity, our level of performance increases and we get the money.
That's cold-blooded, man. That's cold. What are some of the things that you're doing as a child support reform advocate to change the landscape of child support? What are you doing to that could possibly give some of these people that's dealing with this a relief?
Well, I think what I'm trying to do is in every channel possible, I'm trying to sound the alarm, because a lot of what we see as I find to be deficiencies and flaws in the system, a lot of us don't even really realize what's going on. For instance, most people don't realize that if you're receiving TANF or Medicaid, you actually assign over your rights to your child support to the state. Like, it's not even yours anymore. It's a lot of things that's within the system that's just not common knowledge. And so my first thing is to just bring awareness. One, bring awareness. And I think by bringing awareness, it creates a conversation where more people are being able to identify how they have been adversely affected. Mr. Crump's story is a great story because it shows a man who was harmed by the system and the flaws of the system without any guilt or dirty hands of his own. A lot of times in the past, what happens is when it's mostly men that end up talking about how messed up the child support system is. And those men get dismissed because they're just deadbeat dads. They don't want to pay. And so while they have justified complaints, their complaints are never really honored or given credence because the source of where it comes from. And so my goal is to sound the alarm, bring the attention, create a momentum to where this conversation is happening. And then contact as many state and federal lawmakers that I can to propose reform or new legislation or amendments to current legislation that can kind of bring some equity into the system. And it's the flaws and the inequities and the brokenness of the system runs so deep. It runs so deep, and like I said, it goes from the federal government down. So it's not something that can happen overnight. But the plan for me is to chip away at it little bit by little. When you start dismantling something that's associated to a payday, you're going to have a lot of opposition. That's not just going to happen overnight. Billions of dollars are made by the federal and state governments just through the collection of child support. Billions. This is a moneymaker. So the powers that be are not going to just be ready because I say so one time to unask the money, as I would like to put it. But so it's just a process. I see it as a journey and a process that's going to take time, but it just needs somebody who's willing to be consistent at making the noise, being the squeaky wheel that gets the grease.
Yeah. As someone who is a child support reform advocate and family attorney, how has, in your opinion, these type of cases affected the children? How are children affected when you have this gridlock between the mother and the father?
That's a great question. The children ultimately are affected on every level of the flaws that, as I see it. First of all, as I mentioned, the fact that if you are on TANF or Medicaid, that mother or recipient of that service, that state benefit, has to assign over her rights to her child support. So that means that's less money that's coming into her house. If dad is supposed to pay her $600 a month in child support, she has to give that over to the state, and they can arbitrarily decide how much of that $600 they're actually going to give her. So the children are hurt because that's less money coming into the household. In situations where paternity fraud is allowed to run rampant, you have children that end up being bastardized. Because once it is determined, just like in Mr. Crump's case, that, okay, he was on the hook, but now he figured out he's not the dad, and now he's excluded as the biological father, there is a child that's left who doesn't know who his father is. I really think about that. You just really think about that. and then the turmoil that it creates between mom and dad, and how it pretty much makes it impossible for mom and dad to effectively co-parent. And if mom and dad are unable to effectively co-parent, the person that is harmed by that is the child. So the way I see it, it all comes down to adversely affecting the child on some level.
When you walk into that courtroom as a child support reform advocate, what's the temperature like? You know, when you dealing with the prosecutors and the judges.
Hold on, let me say something right quick. When I first I got introduced to Miss Daniels through Miss Candace Matthews, the lady for the Black Democrats, Candace Matthews. So she was the one that gave me
Candace a beast.
Yeah, actually gave me her. And so, cause I had been looking for lawyers, and every lawyer that I had called, they was all saying like, well, you know, I got to work down there, cause I was trying to sue the attorney general because my DNA test, I wanted to know what that first DNA test was. And so when I told Candace about it, Candace was like, okay, well, I know somebody. And they put me in touch with her. And I told her, I say, Miss Daniels, I say, every lawyer that I talk to say they don't want to do it because they have to work with those people every day. The first thing she said was, I'm not worried about them. I knew then. I say, oh yeah, I got me one now. Yeah. And it's been happening ever since.
Got you a bulldog and a drink.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Before I go too far, are you offended when somebody say something like that, like you got a bulldog in a dress?
No, I'm not offended at all. I think that's an accurate assessment of me. I like to say that I'm aggression in its most elegant form.
Aggression in its most elegant form. Yeah. So,
but to answer your question, no, I haven't seen it yet. You know, I haven't. Plus, we've been on Zoom and all that kind of stuff, so I'm not yet at the courthouse among my peers where I can kind of get those stares and those looks yet. We're just now creating this noise and you know and ruffling feathers. So I will say this though, as when Mr. Crump first came into my office, I knew in 2019 when he came into my office that his case was going to be the case that was going to be the one that highlighted the issues. It was going to be the one that was going to be seminal in like pointing out the flaws and being able to use it to rally up for reformation to this particular area of the law. And I knew that me taking that step at some point was could possibly lead to, you know, confusion and contention among some of my peers. I already know that, but it's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. I didn't become a lawyer to just sit in my office and make money. Like, you know, being a family lawyer puts me on the front row to be able to see these issues. And I think that information makes you responsible. If you have the know-how and the ability, then you have a responsibility to do something with the position that you're in. So that's why I'm at with it.
Yeah. Christopher, where are you at with that $40,000?
Well, they still contacting me. I know in July that they always stop me from getting my registration for my 18-wheelers. So I know that's getting ready to come up. I'm finna have to deal with that. I was actually going to go down there today. But my wife was like, I wouldn't go down there yet. Because she was like, we've been checking my credit report because I'm trying to buy a house, and that was on my credit at one while. But for the last couple of months, ever since Miss Daniels been doing what she's doing, they haven't reposted it on there, so it haven't been on there for like 3 months. And so I told my wife, I say, okay, I say, this is how we're gonna find out if it's really on there or not. Even though it's not showing let's go get me a passport. So I got a interview with the passport people Friday, and if that passport come back, then I know it's not on there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on.
Cassandra,
Yes,
do you work with the credit bureau and stuff to try to help repair these guys' credit when these type of things happen, or do you have somebody that you work with that work directly with the bureaus? How does that work?
The answer to your question is no. I don't work with the bureaus, and I don't have anyone that works with the bureaus. I don't think that there is anything you can really do. It's a judgment. It's a judgment that's on your credit, and the only way that you can satisfy it is by paying it. I mean, that's just what that is. That's what that is.
You can't dispute it, because some judgments are on your credit report that are disputable.
Yeah, and the only my understanding of how the credit thing works, and again, this is outside of my wheelhouse, but you can dispute it. But if they can show how that judgment is justified, it just stays. It stays on your credit. So I mean, I don't think that there's a way for him to dispute that to have it removed. I think the only way to have it removed is to pay it. Now, I will say this: the assistant attorney general that we were working with on this case, when his case got dismissed, she offered us a settlement. She said, what we'll do is we'll get mom to waive what you owe her, but what you owe to the state, you still got to pay, which is a whole other thing. I'm sorry.
How much is that?
I think
12.
Is it 12?
Yeah, it was like 11,800 and something. So it was almost 12.
Okay, so that's how much he owes to the state. Which
that lets you know it ain't about the child.
Yeah, because I was confused. I'm like, how do you owe the state money? Yeah,
that lets you know it ain't about the child.
But see, I was willing to get him that, man, because I got a whole family. I got a wife and 3 girls. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to pay that 12. You know what I'm saying? Just to go and get it over with. But now, since we lost that time when we went to court, when they wasn't even trying to hear Miss Cassandra, and I figured like, and the thing about it was with me, and what made me real mad, and I had to hurry up and get off the phone when we was in court or in the Zoom meeting, is because the judge was a sister, and she was not even trying to hear it. Yeah. Like, you're not even trying to hear another sister telling you, like, these people, what they doing. You got the power to say, huh?
What's her name, Cassandra? What's that judge name?
In defense of the judge, she couldn't do. Her hands were tied. You know, the law is black and white a lot of times. If you beat the statute of limitation, if the statute of limitation is run, there's nothing that can be done.
Judges have a lot of latitude,
but they don't have absolute power.
They don't have absolute power, but sometimes they will exert absolute power and then let somebody challenge them later down the line on it. I've seen them do it. Like, they go outside of their jurisdiction all the time. They just they go outside of their powers all the time. They do all kinds of stuff all the time. They got a lot of latitude.
Well, I'll say this. If I felt that the judge was at fault and she didn't do all that she could have, I would be the first one to say it. But me understanding the laws, her requirements, how this whole system works, there was nothing that she could do. Judges don't want to they don't want to be mandamus. If a judge acts in a way that's outside of what's proper, what's legal, what's lawful, they can be mandamus. Judges don't want that. They don't want to be reversed and all that kind of stuff. So, they follow the law. Yeah, and there wasn't anything that she could do.
Yeah, Christopher.
But I felt like she could have listened. She didn't give you a chance to talk. Yeah. I feel like if she'd have just listened, to you, she didn't give you a chance to talk. She let the attorney general talk, and then when you tried to say something, she said, "Well, she went by XYZ." She didn't give you a chance. To me, the judges don't really know exactly what's going on with the case. If she'd have just listened to you and she'd have heard you say what XYZ is, then it probably would have been a different outcome. But she did not give you a chance to talk. And she did.
I respect Mr. Crump's perspective. As a legal professional, I just respectfully disagree. And I understand what it looks like from the outside looking in. As I understand, but as a legal professional, understanding how the court system flows, it happened like it was supposed to happen. Otherwise, I would be saying, hey, she was messed up, she did it wrong. Like I would be saying that. But I don't have a problem with what happened in court. I'll just leave it like that.
I think that they need to be held accountable. Where is that first DNA test? What happened to that test? Like, if we can prove that test showed that I wasn't the father way back when, it wouldn't be no 40,000. It wouldn't be me on here talking to y'all. It wouldn't be none of this. Y'all put me on the hook because y'all knew that y'all looked at my background and see I always have had a job.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm proposing as far as new legislation that I think would absolutely address Mr. Crump's situation and people that have been in situations like him. Currently in the state of Texas, if you believe by misrepresentation that you were the biological father of a child and it was later found out that it wasn't, if you have a right to file a petition to terminate that parent-child relationship that was established, as long as you do so before 2 years, before the expiration of 2 years, right? If you finally becoming aware. And currently what the law says, once that relationship is terminated, any current child support orders are void, like they're terminated as well. So any current child support moving forward is terminated as well, and any interest accruing on past child support is terminated. But any past money judgments or any past child support obligations survive. So that means that in Mr. Crump's case, that's how it happens. So he could still be on the hook for that past money, is because the current law says that although we terminate the relationship, you still on the hook for the past. So a simple amendment to the legislation would be that not only do current and future child support obligations and money judgments terminate, but any past obligations and money judgments terminate, right? Because if the kid ain't mine, why do I need to pay for the old stuff? So if they would to amend the law, the family code in that way, that's section 161.005. If they were to amend the family code in that way, Mr. Crump right now would be able to file a petition to terminate his parent-child relationship, and all child support orders, past or present, would be void. They would terminate, and any past money judgments would go away, and he would be absolved of those issues. And to me, that just makes sense. If there's misrepresentation, that means there was fraud there somewhere, then he should be able to be restored to where he was prior to the fraud, and that was without any child support obligations or money judgments against him.
I absolutely 100% agree. Christopher Crump, hey man, thanks you for coming on the show and sharing your story. Attorney Cassandra Daniels, please share your information on how people can reach out to you if they want some representation.
Yes, I want to say this before I say that. I have been working hand in hand with a young lady out of Austin. Her name is Kenya Rahman, and she has written a book called The Child Support Hustle. She's been fighting this fight for way longer than I have, and so I've partnered with her with putting a lot of this stuff together. A lot of her information and a lot of the stuff that we talk about can be found on the website, thechildsupporthustle.com. So I would advise you guys to check that out. Check out those videos and the content. If you are looking to reach me, I'm a family lawyer licensed in the state of Texas. You can call my office. The number is 346-703-1234. Again, that is 346-703-1234. Or you can go to my website. That is www.thedanielslawfirm.com. That's THE Danielslawfirm.com. We are on Facebook and Instagram, Daniels Law Firm PLLC. Yeah.
And for the guys that have been making these little slick remarks about how nice you look, what's your personal cell number?
555.
777-9311. All good. All right. Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
All right, fam. All right. Okay, fam. Before I go, I want to remind you guys to check out the Ghetto Boys Reloaded podcast. Me and Scarface, we're coming back with information and instructions to help you navigate through this wild, crazy, beautiful world. If you want to check out the podcast, of course you do. Go to Apple Music. You can go to Apple and download Apple Podcasts, rather. And you can go to The Black Effect, or you can go check out Our Heart, and or wherever you get your podcast from, and just type in Ghetto Boys Reloaded. The first episode is Monday, July 5th. Fam, I ain't got to talk this thing up. You know how we get down. Until next time, family, no more talk.